The death is announced of Mrs. Agnita Pain, better known as Ma John or Auntie Aggie of Sunny Acres, originally from Grass Street, Castries. She also worked and lived at 92 Fonthill Road in London for the most part of her life. She passed away peacefully at the Tapia Hospital in Castries on Sunday, 10th January 2021 at about 10:55 p.m. after a short illness. She was 93 years old. She was the daughter of the deceased Marie Dupré, better known as Ma Sentol, of Grass Street, Castries. Her four deceased sisters, Mrs. Agatha Bryant, better known as Ma Smalley, Miss Mary Stephanie Dupré, better known as Mavis, Miss Joan Dupré, better known as Joanne, Mrs. Veronica Moore, better known as Rosemary. Her deceased brother, Mr. Francois Dupré, better known as Wilfred of Trinidad. Left to mourn her only surviving brother, Mr. Eric Ignatius Dupré, in Barbados. Her sister-in-law, Mrs. Thelma Dupré, in Barbados. Her 11 nephews, Albert Anderson, better known as Poto, of Grass Street, Castries, David Dupré of Barbados, Sean Dupré of Barbados, Harold Dupré of Trinidad, Clifton Dupré of Trinidad, Herman Dupré of Trinidad, Errol Dupré of Trinidad, Anthony Edgar in England, Claudius Edgar, better known as Five, of Castries, Trevor Edgar in England, Julian Edgar in England. Her four nieces, Celia Dupré Yard, husband and family of Barbados, Glennis Dupré of Trinidad, Deanne Dupré of Trinidad, Lenore Dupré of Trinidad. Her many grandnieces and grandnephews, including Sasha Ernest, mother, aunt, and family of Leclerc, Valine Chamon Wells, employed of Cox and Company, Velon Chamon, employed of Ministry of Health, Darrell Anderson, teacher at the Leon Hess Secondary, Darren Anderson, employee of First National Bank, Naeem Anderson, past student of Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, Nisha Anderson, student of Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, Kevin Yard, student of UWI in Barbados, Mario Dupré of Barbados, Omari Dupré of Barbados, Kervin Senpree of St. Lucia, Carl in England, Marlon in England, Shane in England, Dwayne in England, Melissa of St. Lucia, Keisha Nicholas of Trinidad. Her very close and special friends including Mrs. Claret Ogis Taylor and family, Miss Brenda Senville and family, Miss Ingrid Hunt and family in England. Her many godchildren in St. Lucia and abroad including Mr. Albert Anderson in St. Lucia, Mrs. Virginia Yard Tate in St. Lucia, Mr. Velon Chamon in St. Lucia, Mr. Kenneth Leon in England, Miss Christine Innocent in England, Mr. Carl Woodward in England, Miss Christine Innocent in England. Her many cousins and close relatives in St. Lucia and abroad including Mrs. Delicia Alambert and family of the Moan Castries, Miss Althea Quinlan and family of St. Lucia, Mr. Henry, Renee, Marcel, Randolph, Annette, Louisette Tranquil, and family in St. Lucia, Martinique, France, and England, Mrs. Marcella Jules' husband and family in St. Lucia and England, Mr. Malcolm Scholar and family in St. Lucia, England and the USA, Miss Patricia and Patsy Daniel and family in St. Lucia and England, Nurse Marge Pierre and family in St. Lucia, Mrs. Gloria Jean-Louis and family in St. Lucia. Her many close friends in St. Lucia, England, and the USA, including Mrs. Senville and family in St. Lucia, Mrs. Mona Joseph and family of Grosley and overseas, Mrs. Anne Monroe and family in St. Lucia, Mrs. Gertrude Tate and family in St. Lucia, Mrs. Veronica Phillips, better known as Nika and family in St. Lucia, Miss Grace Shamon, better known as Lena and family in St. Lucia, Mr. Martin Simon and family in St. Lucia and overseas, Miss Diane Matre of Sanssouci, Mrs. Dorothy Jeremy and family of the Moncastries, Mrs. Mary Jane William, better known as Lita and family of Marisol, Mr. Leo and family of Grosley, Mrs. Una Springer and family in Castries and overseas, Mr. Mike and Audrey Augustine and family in St. Lucia, Mrs. Luces Haynes and family in St. Lucia and Canada, Mrs. Pearl Haynes and family in St. Lucia, Mrs. Debbie and Donna Quinlan and family in St. Lucia and the USA, Mr. Jean-Claude, Mr. Jean-François and family in Martinique, Mr. Russellson Bryce and family of Leslie Lancastries, Mrs. Celiane Fontenelle and family in La Clary Castries, Ms. Rudica Woodward and family in St. Lucia, Mr. Alex and family in St. Lucia, Ms. Audrey Lancico and family in St. Lucia, her doctors and nurses, Dr. Dana De Costa Gomez, Dr. Alwyn Benjamin, Nurse Morris, her caretakers, Monica and Andrea Jules of Gara, her neighbors of Sunny Acres and Sanssouci, including Mrs. Eudocia and family, Mr. and Mrs. Kajada and family, Mr. and Mrs. Frederick and family, many other relatives and friends both here and abroad, including the Dupre, Tranquil, Daniel, Jones, Anderson, Gideon, Scholar, Blas, O'Geese, Leon, Burton, Brian, Paul, and many other families and very close friends in St. Lucia, Martinique, Barbados, Trinidad, England, Canada, and the USA, too numerous to mention. The funeral service of the late Mrs. Agnita Pain, better known as Ma John, or Auntie Aggie of Sunny Acres, originally from Grass Street, Castries, will be held at Our Lady of Fatima Church in La Clary on Wednesday, 17th February 2021 at 10 a.m., and her body will be laid to rest at the Shock Cemetery. May she rest in peace. Her body now lies at Crick's Funeral Home Limited, Vidbouteille, Castries. All COVID-19 protocols must be adhered to.